Madam Representative Annie McDaniel.
Okay, we are about to get started up in here. And we're going to have a good time talking about the state of Black South Carolina. And I know some of you probably wondering, what in the world is that? Well, if you checked your lives recently, I think you probably know. They started with the price of eggs, right? Now it's the price of cars. I went shopping, thought I was going to buy a new one. I said, oh no, let me go get mine fixed. Did not do that. But good evening, everyone, and welcome to this crucial summit. The state of Black South Carolina is relevant. And I'm State Representative Annie E. McDaniel. I represent House District 41, which is all of Fairfield County, a portion of Chester County, and a portion of Richland County over in the Blackwood area. So to begin, we'll have a prayer from our caucus chair-elect, Representative Michael Rivers, and he comes from Beaufort, South Carolina. So if you would come up and give us a great prayer to get us in flight, we appreciate it.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. Let us pray. Heavenly Father, we thank you for this day. We thank you for this moment. We thank you for the nowness of now. We thank you that you know all things and all things are under your control. Father, as we come and talk about what's going on in our community, we know that you know that we don't have to be afraid of Pharaoh. Because Pharaoh has to be stupid if he's going to try to go through waters that's standing up on both sides. Father, we've been there, we've done that, and we trust you, and we know that you've been there for us, and you're not going to stop now. You said, trust in the Lord with all thine heart, and lean not to thy own understanding. And what then shall we say to these things? If God be for us, who can be against us? And we know that he's for us, he's with us, and he's in us. In the name and nature of Jesus the Christ, amen.
Amen. And what church is that? All right, so he started us off right. So let's just go on down these little notes I have here, because I don't want us to spend a lot of time talking, because we need to listen to the presenters, and we want you all to be gathering your questions, because we want this to be a real conversation, real talk. So when we go back to our communities, we know what we need to do. And when we come back, because this is just beginning, y'all know Rome wasn't built in a day, so we're going to have to, it's going to take us a little minute, but we want to be impactful as we journey down the road. So thank you, Representative Rivers, for that invocation. So we would hear from each of our 3 presenters. And I have their bios somewhere. I will read a little bit from each one. And we're going to go straight through the entire program. So if you want to grab something to eat, please do. You need to use the restroom or whatever, because we're just going to keep moving. We're going to keep moving. So, oh yes, we are streaming. So if any of you, if you don't mind, if you would pull us up on your social media page and share it and share it and share it, because we want everyone to be able to listen to this event and call us with questions so that we can try to heal some of the wounds that's within our community. Because if we don't do it, who's going to do it? Oh, well, y'all thinking kind of slow on that now. Am I on that train by myself? What in the world? Okay, the first speaker that we will have will be former Representative James Felder. James Felder is a native of Sumter, South Carolina. He spent early adult years in Washington, D.C., and has lived in Columbia since 1967. He holds a BA degree from Atlanta Clark University, a Juris Doctorate from Howard University School of Law, a Master of Laws from the Atlanta Law School and the Doctorate of Humane Letters from the College of Charleston. After graduating from Howard University in 1967, Jim returned to South Carolina to direct the South Carolina Voter Education Project, where he placed over 200,000 blacks on the voting rolls. During his military tour of duty, 1962 to 64, he was selected to head the casket team that bore the body of the late President John F. Kennedy during those 4 dark days in November 1963. He received the Army Commendation Medal for his performance. In 1970, Jim Felder, along with I.S. Levy Johnson and Herbert U. Fielding, were the first 3 blacks to be elected to the South Carolina legislature since Reconstruction. In 1973, he was appointed the first black assistant solicitor prosecutor in South Carolina. He was initiated into Beta Psi chapter of Clark College on December 12, 1958. He was elected the 13th second vice grand basileus at the 1959 Grand Conclave in New York. Would that be Omega Psi Phi? Where is he? Oh, okay. He's telling me all about it, but he didn't tell me what fraternity it was. He was the recipient of more than 200 awards and honors. He has lectured on the campuses of more than 40 colleges and universities. Presently, he serves as the chair of the board of the South Carolina Civil Rights Museum and a curator of the Lincoln High School Museum. He is the author of 5 books: I Buried John F. Kennedy, Civil Rights in South Carolina, The Making of an AME Bishop, The Life and Times of Dr. Lons C. Richardson, former president of Morris College, and From the Farm to the State Capitol. Y'all heard that? From the farm to the state capitol. From the farm to the state capitol. The McKinley Washington Jr. story. He is Steward Pro Temp, Union Station AME Church in Sumter, South Carolina. He is the father of 2 children, Jimmy and Adrian, son-in-law Lance Wright, and 2 grandsons, Lance II and Sean. Now what I'm gonna do is read all of the bios so they can come up individually so I don't have to come back up here. Following him, we will have Representative Wendell K. Jones. This your first term? Second term? His second term as South Carolina State Representative, and he comes to us by way of Greenville. So Wendell K. Jones is a results-driven legislator, entrepreneur, pastor, and leadership strategist, dedicated to building systems that empower leadership strengths, dedicated to building systems that empower communities, expand opportunity, and protect the public. A Greenville native and Wofford College graduate with a degree in finance, Wendell has spent his career at the intersection of business innovation, faith-driven leadership, and civic impact. In 2007, Wendell founded Changing Your Mind Ministries. Another minister, go on now, pastor. And following the COVID-19 pandemic, Wendell expanded his business portfolio to include commercial sanitation solutions, offering vital services to safeguard essential workplaces and institutions. In 2022, Wendell was elected to the South Carolina House of Representatives to serve the 25th District in Greenville County. His work is marked by coalition building, strategic legislation, and a bold commitment to equity and innovation. Wendell is a Liberty Fellow, part of South Carolina's premier leadership fellowship program, and the recipient of multiple state and local honors, including the Order of the Silver Crescent, the state's highest civilian award for community service. A proven leader across sectors, Wendell continues to champion forward-thinking solutions at the State House and beyond, bridging the gap between policy, people, and purpose. And then our keynote, who's gonna bring us all kind of statistics, and don't y'all go to sleep on them, because it's some good stuff. Right, Brenton?
Yes, ma'am.
All right. Brenton Brown is a native of Columbia, South Carolina. Brenton Brown serves as Chief of Staff for the South Carolina Commission for Community Advancement and Engagement. formerly the South Carolina Commission for Minority Affairs. This is a state agency tasked with identifying issues and trends affecting the social economic health of the state's rural and under-resourced communities, while also implementing programs to address these issues. Brenton is a proud graduate of Columbia High School, the Citadel, and the University of South Carolina School of Law. He has also completed the Riley Institute at Furman University's Diversity, that word we ain't supposed to use, Leaders Initiative, and is a graduate of Leadership South Carolina. Good. South Carolina Certified Public Manager Program and the South Carolina Executive Institute. He is a member of Alpha Phi Alpha Fraternity Incorporated. He is also a member of the Columbia branch of the NAACP and serves as vice chair for the boards of South Carolina Humanities and Richland County Public Education Partners. Brenton is married to Dr. Jesselyn Brown, an attorney, former superintendent, and current higher education professional. They are the proud parents of one son, Hamilton, and they worship at Brooklyn Baptist Church in West Columbia. These are presenters. We ask that you all listen to them, take notes, get your questions ready, because as soon as they finish, we're going to have a phenomenal conversation about the state of Black South Carolina. Thank you.
Good afternoon. I am from Sumter, South Carolina, where leadership just bubbles up. It's the home of Kay Patterson, Jim Clyburn, Jim Solomon, and others. 1970, Herbert Fielding, Jim Clyburn, I.S. Levy Johnson, and myself. We survived the Democratic Party primary in June. We had to run at large. We did not have single-member districts at that time. But November, general election, only 3 of us survived: Herbert Fielding, I.S. Levy Johnson, and myself. Jim Clyburn went to sleep a winner and woke up. He had lost. Absentee ballots came in, took him out. But as you know, he did not let them stop him. He kept running, Secretary of State, and finally, 6th District Congressperson. That's what us Sumter people do. We don't quit. Now, we ran at large. What was the first thing we did when we got to the State House? Well, first of all, they ignored us. I mean, we were like furniture in the room. After about 2 weeks, one of them would ease up beside your desk. We didn't have the Blott building and the Brown building at the time. Ease up beside your desk and say, "Jim, can you sign this little bill here for me?" And after that, we were okay. First thing we did was to propose legislation creating single-member districts. So Saul Blott, the old boy from Barnwell, appointed me to that committee, along with Isidore Lurie and Dick Riley from Greenville. Gressick, Mr. Segregationist, was the chairman of the committee. But we were able to start the ball rolling, and so by 1974, we had created 13 African-American districts. Ernest Finney was one in that 13. Ernest stayed one term, 2 years, and was elected the first Black circuit court judge in South Carolina. Finney was from Sumter. He knew what buttons to push. When other legislators, after the sessions were over and we out at the old Capitol City Club, not the Capitol Club that is now closed, we're talking, there's a restaurant on Main Street, drinking wine and beer and what have you, Finney would be down in Barnwell with the speaker. One term, and he was elected because Saul Blott liked him. Then you know the rest of Finney's story. From there he went to the Supreme Court and then finally became Chief Justice. Well, anyway, 13 black representatives in 1974, and now you are how many? 30 what? 35. That's where we have come from, and that's how we got there. In between, or just before that, we couldn't get elected because of this at-large thing and this full slate law. Y'all know what the full slate law was? No. Okay. Full slate law. If there were 8 seats in the delegation, Richland County delegation I'm using for example, if there were 8 seats, in order for your ballot to count, you had to vote for 8 people, whether you knew them or not, at large. First thing we did was to do away with that, because that's what was keeping us from getting a black elected to the House. Blacks had run ever since back in 1952. Herbert ran, Fielding ran, Hempy Pride ran, and others. But because of this full slate law and you having to vote for the number on the ballot, we kept out. But the single-member districts end that. Now, fast forward again. We're up to 35 now. But what happened? In making some deals along the way, creating those 13 minority districts, some deals were cut with Republicans. And so we started packing and stacking us in certain districts. And that's where we are right now. Now, how do we get out of that? That's going to be up to you. That's my charge to you. How do we do that? If we can't elect one of us to a particular seat, like over here in Lexington County, we still need to vote to get somebody in who we can depend on, somebody who will listen to us. So if you got 2 white candidates, you get the best of 2 evils. So that's where we are today, and that's my charge to you. We've got to begin to make some noise. Yes, sir. Make some noise. And what John Lewis say? Get into good trouble. Now, I'm upset with Henry McMaster sending the National Guard to Washington, D.C. For what? But we're not making any noise about that. Henry's lame duck, so he figures he can do what he wants to do, just like Trump. Trump's lame duck. So he's doing all kind of stupid, crazy things that we never thought we'd ever see in a president in the White House. But he's there. So it's going to be up to us, this group, leading the charge to turn out votes like we never did before. We used to have 1 million black registered voters in South Carolina 4 years ago. We're down to 775,000 now. Where did the other 250,000 people went? They're around somewhere. But the problem is, if you don't vote in 2 elections, you know what happens? They take you off the active roll. Now, you haven't been taken off the voting rolls, just the active roll. And so many people don't understand that all you have to do is make a phone call and tell them, I moved. The problem is there are 300,000 of us who live in apartments. And apartment dwellers move around. They don't change addresses. We've got to adopt those apartments, and we've got to go in and do serious grassroots work. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. That's my story, and I'm sticking with it. I'm going to have to leave in a few minutes because I'm headed to Pelion. You all know where Pelion is? That's redneck country. Jacob Knotts, an old House member and state senator, is receiving the honor of the Palmetto tonight, and he wanted some black folk to add some color to the room, so he invited me and a couple of others. So if I slip out, that's where I'm going.
Thank you, sir. What a act to follow. Good evening, everybody. Listen, y'all, I got a few text messages from my chairwoman. You know, being a pastor, a politician, and an entrepreneur, she knows I can talk. And so she tried to politely rein me in to make sure I didn't stand up here. I see you, Annie. I went stand up here. So look what I did, Annie. I'm not going from the hip. I actually wrote it down. Now, that doesn't mean I'm going to stick to it, but I wrote it down. But I just want to share my thoughts. In addition to some of the stuff that Annie told you guys about me, I have a company, my Leadership Institute, that gives me the privilege of traveling throughout the state. Our company works with minority-owned businesses to help them scale and find some of the fundamental truths about doing business, because I am a strong advocate for the strength of the business community and how we need that in our community to be as solid as possible. And so I'm going to talk a little bit about that in terms of the state of Black South Carolina. One of the things I want us to realize is that this one simple truth, and that is this: for any community to survive political storms like we are encountering right now, and all these many shifting climates, it must be anchored in what I call infrastructure. Infrastructure. Let's go to church real quick for just a second. Look at your neighbor and say infrastructure. And so when I say infrastructure, guys, I'm not talking about bridges and roads. I'm talking about something a little bit deeper where our community is concerned, something that leads to sustainability. What I believe, there are 5 pillars that I think every community needs to have in order for it to be sustainable and the community can become responsible for its own economic mobility. And we need to become responsible for our own economic mobility, and we are well able. Let me tell you what those pillars are. There's physical infrastructure that represents our land, our houses, and just the space that we occupy. There's the economic infrastructure, which I'll talk more about, and that's our businesses and our ability to create wealth. There's the social infrastructure, our networks, our churches, our schools, and our families. Then there's this thing called resilience and sustainability. It's our ability to pivot, our ability to bob and weave when crisis comes. And then last but not least is what we do down the street, and that's governance and policy. But like I said, I want to focus on economic infrastructure, so that's the thing that's most near and dear to my heart. Economic infrastructure is not just about business ownership. It's a little bit more than that, and we got to look at it as being a little bit more than that. For us, our business community must be how we just simply sustain ourselves. Economic sustainability, or better yet, economic stabilization. I really believe that small businesses like Ms. Sumter's business and other folks, that's how we sustain our community. And if you look at our history, that's how we sustained our community. But over the years, we've been scattered a little bit. And we have very few locations that we now can call a community. These Black-owned businesses are more and have to be more than just entrepreneurs chasing profit. They have to be the bedrock of our community stability. When we put that in place, we begin to reduce our dependency on government. How many of y'all realize we need to do that? Because things are going to get real shaky very soon. Right now, it's shaky in the anticipation of things, but the reality is getting ready to hit. And in too many places, we are dependent upon people who don't have our best interests at heart. And so we now have to do what we used to do. We got to circle the wagons and take care of each other. Oh, we got to go to church one more time. Look at your neighbor and say, we got to take care of each other. We got to do that. We got to do that. So I got a message that I believe that will resonate across the aisle, because we are in the minority and we are learning. Even our freshmen are learning. We got to learn how to talk their language, and in many cases use their language against them. Just like they're very quick to hijack our language, like the word woke, we have to also be very strategic and take theirs and make them hold themselves accountable. So let me tell you a little bit more about what I mean with that. Our Republican friends like to talk about merit and self-sufficiency. We on the other side, we have a tendency to talk about equity and justice. But the truth is this: both can agree that when we remove barriers, that's my focus. When we remove the barriers that now impede our community from generating wealth, this produces a benefit of shared results. It is not just the uplifting of the Black community, because truth be told, don't let nobody fool you, truth be told, as the Black community goes, so goes the state. And oftentimes we put things and measures in place that cripple our state and keep our state from being as strong as it can be because we are placing barriers in place that keep you and I from being as successful as we could be. You all agree with that? And so what we've got to do is begin to make some noise, push back, and begin to position ourselves and begin to talk back to them. Say, if you really believe in merit, remove the barriers that give you a head start. We got to have that conversation. And it can't come from just a few of us that are down at the Capitol. It has to come from a collective voice of all of us that say, listen, if you really believe in merit, then get out of the way. If you really believe in merit, face me head on. Don't put me at a disadvantage. And so if you're going to win, win fair. That sounds like their language. Make it transparent because you want transparency so that it can be counted, so we can all be accountable to the use of the tax dollars that we are all putting in the pile. Those are the conversations that we got to start having and really begin to push this. Here in South Carolina produces a GDP of about $350 billion a year. Of that $350 billion, we add about $60 billion of that. That's a lot of money, isn't it? Still not enough, because with us representing 25% of the state, we really ought to be doing about $87 billion. But we don't have time to break all that down. We do about $60 billion. But here's something I want you to go away with, and I hope I'm not stepping on your toes with some of your stats, is that when we begin to take care of each other and realize how economics really does work, because there's not one economy. There are several economies that make up the whole. Our problem is we are contributing $60 billion to this pot, but it keeps leaving us too fast. I know you've heard that before. It is true that our dollars only stay with us for about 6 hours. About 6 hours. But listen, if we can develop the cultural ethics and the discipline, and if these conditions that we're facing now have forced us to look inward and realize we got to take care of each other, if we can just expand that time through which we share with one another and support one another, the impact that it can have on our community is astronomical. It's astronomical. Let me give you a couple examples. So we're at the bottom of the food chain with the dollars circulating in our community 6 hours. The next person on the food chain is the Latino community. They're staying in their community for 6 days. Let me show you what would happen if we match our Hispanic brothers and sisters. So, 60 billion, remember that, 60 billion. If we just captured 10% of that and circulated, so that's 6 billion, right? 6 billion and kept it in our community for 6 days, it will produce an impact for our community of $134 billion. That's real money, Courtney. That's 10%. What can we do with 134 billion circulating through our community? Let's bump it up a little bit. What if we went from 10 to 20%? 20% of that 60 billion. It jumps up to $270 billion of money circulating through us. What can we do with our neighborhoods? What can we do in terms of sending our kids to school? What could we do in terms of further building the infrastructure that we need? Instead of always having to ask somebody for something, what could we not build affordable housing ourselves? Could we not? Could we not solve the daycare crisis ourselves? Could we not begin to solve our food desert issues ourselves? That's what we ought to be aiming for. Because I don't know about you. I don't ever want to find myself in this position again. Ever. Where someone could just at the stroke of a pen feel like they can decide our destiny. Someone at the stroke of the pen can erase our progress. I don't ever want to feel like that. And being a man of faith, I'm accountable for my kids up to 2 generations, because a good man leaves an inheritance for up to 2 generations. And so I'm thinking in terms of, listen, we need to work in such a manner that you and I, as they like to say, we're gonna plant trees that we won't get to sit under. We've got to start building the infrastructure that sustains our communities so that your grandbabies will never feel the struggle and the fear that we currently feel. Am I making sense? And we got to learn how this stuff works, because I've learned a cruel lesson over the last couple of months in terms of policy. We need to fight more for policy, we really do, because in many cases throughout, whether it's at the state level or the local level, they have appeased us a little bit. They pacified us a little bit because they haven't allowed us to really put a lot of policy in place. But what they would normally do is let you trickle some appropriations back to your district. We deserve those appropriations. We did. But we also deserve laws. Because appropriations is a one-off. We got to go back and beg again and beg again. But laws codify protections that we don't have right now. And what we also got to realize too, that we're learning, even if we do get the laws passed, you got to remember we're still on the clock. Because every law is subject to amendment. Every law is subject to repeal. As we're afraid now with the Voting Act, we would never thought we'd live at a time where the Voting Act's right is threatened. But the moment that we are given access with policy, what do we got to do? We can't high-five and have a good time. We got to use that access to build infrastructure so that when you change your mind, we're good. When you decide you're not going to give appropriations anymore, that's cool, we're good. We've already taken care of the things that we need to take care of. I'm acting like a preacher. I'm going to stop. I know it. All right. I look forward to having a conversation with y'all.
Good afternoon, everybody. It is a pleasure to be here. I want to thank Representative McDaniel and the members of the South Carolina Legislative Black Caucus for the invitation. I definitely think that it is an honor, and I definitely appreciate that. It's extremely difficult for me to go behind, number one, Representative Jones, but also at the same time, Representative Felden. I know he has to step out, but if you have not read Civil Rights in South Carolina that he wrote, it is an absolute must-read. And it's an absolute must-read for your children, your grandchildren, and younger generations. As was mentioned before, I am with the South Carolina Commission for Community Advancement and Engagement. We were formerly the South Carolina Commission for Minority Affairs up until about 2.5, 3 months ago. And if you have questions about why the agency had to change, speak with me outside the view of the cameras and the microphones, and we can have a conversation about that. But what I tell people all the time is, I work for a state agency. And so as that means that I work for the people of South Carolina. I am a lifelong public servant. I spent 12 years as a public school educator. And I tell people all the time very quickly, there are 2 high schools on the face of this planet you cannot talk bad about in front of me. My alma mater, Columbia High School, and Lower Richland High School, where I taught for 12 years. And so I believe in public education. I believe in public service. But also at the same time, I believe in people. And so what I would like to go through today, let me be very clear. I am not an expert. I have a little bit of knowledge, and I have no problem pointing to the 3 individuals over to my left and to your right. And I'm going to call on them, and they know that I'm going to call on them because they work with me. And because they are here this evening, I'm going to let them take Monday off. You're free. You do whatever you want on Monday. Y'all are free on Monday. But no, I will introduce them a little bit later. But what I want to talk to you about this evening, if we can go to the slides, please. Next slide, please. I'm going to go through some of this. So long story short, as I go through these slides, Commission for Community Advancement and Engagement, Act number 56, which was just passed at the end of this legislative session, changed us from minority affairs to community advancement and engagement. Previously, we focused on socioeconomics for the state's minority communities. By minority, by statute, before it was changed, it was African American, Asian American, Pacific Islander, Hispanic, Latino, and Native American. Now we focus on specifically rural and under-resourced communities, which, if you've ever been in South Carolina for more than 3 minutes, you realize that's pretty much the entire state, all right? And so that's who we are servicing, once again, servicing the entire state of South Carolina. What we do, and I always tell people, and this has not changed, if you think about what we now call SCCAE, think R&R, research and resources. We're the state's point of contact for research on now its rural and under-resourced communities, and we also try to tie in resources to those particular communities. Resources in the community development sense, but also more importantly in the economic development sense. Next slide, please. These are just our agency divisions. Really, I'm going to focus more so on that last division, small business. Next slide, please. Community development, these are some of the things that we have worked on as an agency in totality. I've been with the agency about 6 years, so these are some of the things that we have worked on. Apprenticeships, working with Apprenticeship Carolina, which is a division of the technical college system. If you are not aware, South Carolina has one of the best technical college systems in the entire nation. Absolutely amazing work that is being done in all the campuses. I think there are 18 different campuses throughout the state. Absolutely amazing work that is being done. If you have not had a chance to visit a technical college, please do so very soon. They're doing very cutting edge work in those places. What we're also working on, Second Chance, we're trying to assist those individuals, our brothers and sisters who are leaving incarceration, going back into communities. We are working to establish what we call a Second Chance data network. We want to be able to work with PPP, Probation, Parole, Pardon Services, Department of Corrections, and also other entities that across the state to assist these individuals such that when they get back into their home communities, they hit the ground running. Next, we have technology. We have always supported our state's HBCUs. We have 8 HBCUs here in the state of South Carolina, very strong institutions, and we're working to make them stronger. Just one thing that we have done in the last few years, we have partnered, there has been a grant, the Department of Commerce funded it several years ago, but to introduce computer science and cybersecurity jobs to HBCU students across the state and also students at Trident Technical College. It's just a few things that we've done as an agency. Next slide, please. So minority businesses in South Carolina. Here, I want to talk about the division that the individuals who I work with and who I lean on a daily basis, this is what they do. And so as I am not ashamed to say I'm actually going to call Johnny Birch up in a few moments because he is an expert in this. I can tell you right now, I guarantee you, outside of the Department of Public Safety and Department of Transportation, there is not a member of state government that has traveled more through the state of South Carolina than Johnny Birch. He does amazing work, amazing work. And so I want to have him come up and also some members of the team come up and talk about that as well. Next slide, please. So there's a very small office that most people have never heard of. Originally, it originated in with the Budget and Control Board, which then migrated over to the Department of Administration, but what we call SMBCC, the South Carolina Division of Small and Minority Business Contracting and Certification. And that particular division does these two things. It promotes the interests of small and minority businesses as a part of a free enterprise system. It focuses on economic growth and development. But what it also does is it wants to make sure that it advocates for an equitable portion of state procurement contracts be awarded to these certified businesses. So people can basically 2 steps. You can get certified, and through certification, you can gain revenue by contracting with state government. Next slide, please. How do you do that? You do that by being in business for at least 1 year, having a personal net worth not to exceed $1.32 million. If you have a problem getting under that threshold, let me know. I can help you spend some of that money. All right. All right. Next, the person who is seeking certification, you must have 51% ownership. Johnny can tell you some incredible stories, but they want to make sure that the individual who is applying is the individual who actually runs that business. Not their spouse, not their close friend, not their neighbor, not their mother. It must be the individual who is applying, must be the individual that has at least 51% ownership, and this is important, real and substantial authority. When he sits across from you, he knows his stuff. If you don't know your stuff, you're not getting certified, okay? Next, the business must have an office in South Carolina, and if you're denied for any reason, you can reapply. However, it takes at least 1 year to reapply. Next slide, please. Certification of state agencies. Every state agency has an established goal of a minimum of 10% of their annual budget. So as an agency, we get appropriated funds through the General Assembly every year. I want to go ahead in advance and thank all the members here who are on Ways and Means and Senate Finance for approving our budget request this year. God bless you and thank you. And I say that because it is extremely important as agencies that we have the funds that we need to hire the individuals who are going to go across the state and service people, but to also be able to put in programs and initiatives that are going to help people. And so we have to, as an agency, even when we were in minority affairs and now as community advancement and engagement, we have to spend at least 10% of our procurable dollars with businesses that are certified through my colleagues. That's very important. And I'll show you some graphs and some data later. Quarterly progress reports are sent to SMBCC by every agency. And then finally, firms that subcontract a portion of work to certified minority firms are eligible for an income tax credit equal to 4% of the total payment up to $50,000 annually. So there are some benefits there. Next slide, please. Here's some of the benefits. Number one, networking. As a business owner, or I should say, as business owners, many of you understand the power of networking and relationships. Next, you have access to the directory, solicitations from state agencies. You can be present at trade fairs or be represented at trade fairs. There are workshops and seminars that my colleagues perform throughout the state. And then also the promotion of someone from a subcontractor to a prime contractor. Next slide, please. The process very quickly. You submit an application to the office with all required documentation. There's a checklist that will be sent out to you. You complete applications as they're reviewed. Completed applications are then reviewed to ensure conformity. After an application is reviewed to ensure that the filer meets the criteria, a site visit is then done. So you can't just fill out your paperwork, send it in, and expect to get certified. They're going to come knocking on your business's front door. They want to make sure that you are actually in business doing what it says that you have been doing. If you're approved for certification, an approval letter is sent. The entire process from start to finish can take right around 90 days. Sometimes a little bit less, sometimes a little bit longer, but it takes right at around 90 days. Next slide, please. We'll come back to this a little bit later, but some more further details. Next slide, please. So, Johnny, I'm going to ask you to come up now. If you could talk about the three-tiered framework. So, we're looking at some changes, and I know I already had some conversations with some individuals about certification is not enough, and we understand that, and we respect that, and we are looking at some changes. And let me be mindful, these are plans. Nothing is set in stone, but this is something that Johnny and his team, Dr. DaCosta, who is our agency head, and some others have come together with to try to make the certification process a little bit more robust and a little bit more practical to be able to assist people. So, Johnny, thank you, sir.
Good evening, everybody. Good evening. My name is Johnny Birch. I'm the director for the Small Business Division for the state of South Carolina. And what we're proposing here is we want to shift to a three-tier certification process. So what does that mean? It's basically, I'll say this, we were never DEI. Small business, minority businesses, we were never DEI. Because when you look at the graph that we're going to show you, the money wasn't going into the small minority businesses. But what Brenton said earlier, I do hold all applications accountable. If your application comes in, if it's not right, you get denied. If I do the site visit and you don't own the business, you get denied. One thing I do pride myself on, my grandfather told me a long time ago, all you got is your name. That's right. So basically, my name's going to stand for something, and it's not going to be anything unethical. All right, so next slide. So this is what Tier 1, we're talking about micro and emerging businesses. So basically, their revenue range comes from maybe $1,000 up to $1 million. You normally, basically, a Tier 1 business don't have maybe 1, 2, 3 employees. So basically, what we're trying to do is basically get them access to capital. So how do we do that? So what we're going to do is attempt to, we call it set-asides. But if it's 10% or 20% of the state contracts, if we can allow $25,000 or less to go to small business, Tier 1s, and say you get called by USC 5 times at $25,000, then you're up over $100,000. But one of the issues with small businesses, they don't like to do right. I'm just being honest with you. Just being honest. You tell them over and over and over. All you got is that business name. So basically, if you say I can do X, you should be able to do X. So when the state, a prime call on you to do X and you fail, I tell them you fail one time. You fail at your business one time, close it down. No one's not going to do business with you anymore. That's a fact. And when you apply again under another name, we're going to ask you, have you ever had a business before? We do our homework. Now, before I keep going any further, my team, I got Ashton Williams over there. I stole him from SCDOT. He's my outreach coordinator. He's all across the state. And my new hire, Virginia State graduate, Tamara Lewis, she's been with me 2 months. And she's doing great things. Wonderful. So we're talking about target newly established business, small businesses with limited revenue. So basically, this is where we want to go to the tier 1, tier 2, tier 3 business. Next slide. Tier 2. Normally they range maybe average 3 years, 1 million, upwards of 10 million. Not many of us are averaging $10 million in the small business world. So they normally have about 11 to 50 employees. Basically, what we're trying to do is a successful tier 1 after about 5 years should be moving up to at least a tier 2 with revenue, and that's how you grow your business. Now, some of you are going to be happy just staying tier 1s. If that's where you want to be, it's all right with us. So this is just proposals. We're going to present that out. And normally, the tier 2 can handle a contract upwards of maybe about $20 million because they have the capacity and the capability to handle that. Normally, a lot of business try to take on stuff they can't handle. If you can't handle it, don't take it on. All right, next slide. So this is the larger, the tier 3. So what we're looking at with the tier 3 is they must serve as a footprint for the tier 1 and tier 2 small businesses. So basically, we want them to actually, 20% of that contract to actually deal with the tier 1 and tier 2 so they can show them how to become a tier 3 prime. We only making suggestions. We got legislators in the room. This is what we're asking you to do. So we can stop small businesses from doing all the complaining. Let's put something in black and white and hold folks accountable. Next slide.
Can you say more about what you mean by that statement?
Say again now?
You said we need to put things in place so that we can hold things accountable. One, who is we? What sort of
The legislators. This needs to become some type of law, if possible.
the tiers?
The tiers. That's what we're looking at. A lot of times we go out, we talk about minority businesses. All of them are small businesses. There's nothing beneficial when you say you're a minority business. You're a small business. You just happen to be a minority owner. But you're still a small business. And that's what we thrive off. You are actually a small business. There's no benefits to anything else but being a small business. Yes? We can. Oh, we're working on it now.
Yes, sir. So what we're looking at now is because our focus as an agency has shifted a little. I don't want to let the cat out of the bag too soon. I still need to talk my agent's head, but I will say this. We were contacted about 6 or 7 months ago by an entity in the Low Country. This is an entity that works with with CDFIs, community development, financial institutions, and some others. And what they do amazing work, amazing work. They're primarily based in your district down in Charleston. But they inquired about us about a statute that really went to one of our sister agencies, SE Commerce, and it was a program called the Micro Enterprise Partnership Program. And so what you will find, and y'all are well aware of this, dealing with statutes, you know, I had to educate myself on it, but there are programs that are in place, but for whatever reason, they're not funded. And because they're not funded, when you have organizations that have individuals who are, I always tell, they'll tell you, I'm a nerd. I have no problem saying that. I will sit down and I will read through the code of regulations and read through the statutes. Partly because it's just because of my brain is, but also when people ask me questions, I want to know what I'm talking about. And I had never heard of this program before. And so it took me about a day or so to go through, find the information, contact people at SE Commerce, inquire about this particular program, and then come to find out it was a program that was put in place about 10 years ago, but just through, and it wasn't anything nefarious, it just was different leaderships over time have different priorities. And this particular program that now in 2025 can benefit micro businesses is no longer being funded. And the individuals who are part of the agency, it's nothing nefarious on their part. Many of them are new to their roles. So they're not even aware of what's on the particular books when it comes to this program. But what we told the community-based organization was reach out first and foremost to the agency so that you can speak to the leadership about what's going into their budget requests, because we're about to come into that season, as you know. And so we can see, you can see whether or not that's a priority for them to get that back, to get funding placed back into that particular program. And that's what I tell people all the time, is when things go away, it's not necessarily something that's nefarious. It's just that, and y'all know this full well, especially on the House side, y'all are dealing with so many different things. And your colleagues in the Senate are on so many different committees, and you have so many different people who are coming up to you. I understand that because I'm down there, but a lot of times people in the public don't understand that. And I have to educate people and let them know that it's not that, like I've said before several times, it's nothing that is nefarious that's going on. It's just kind of where your attention is being drawn to at a particular point in time. So it's important to know that these things are out there and then some of the things that we can do. But this, as Johnny just went through, is something that we are working on right now to formally present to the legislature so that we can have something going forward. We're also working on something else that's a little bit different. Like I said, we're not, that's still in the pot right now. So hopefully over the next month or so, we'll be able to have that ready, and we'll definitely make sure that that's presented to everybody in the legislature. Yes, sir.
John, yes. Those of us that are tier 1 business owners, after COVID wiped many of us out from brick and mortar, we are now going into more shared workspaces. I'm getting ready to move into a shared workspace now. That's where my business is going to operate from a Venture X or something like that where we have a suite. How is that going to impact you certifying our business when you come out to do an inspection? Some of us are no longer going to be in a brick and mortar space, but rather those shared working spaces. And that's probably going to be the norm for a lot of tier 1 businesses, especially startups, those of us that are actually in printing, marketing, advertising, or even the tech field. That's where we're going to be. As far as the certification process, I'll answer your question. There was never a defined brick and mortar in order to be certified. You could have had a home-based business as a small business because we understand that most of you can't afford a brick and mortar. So I can tell you about 60% of the almost 1,000 certified small businesses are home-based businesses. They have home offices. So it's okay. You can have a home office. You don't have to have a brick and mortar because we don't expect you to be in a brick and mortar when you barely can make ends meet as far as a business owner. So never, ever is it a disqualifier that you don't have a brick and mortar. It's always you can have a home-based business and we can still come in and do the site visit. Basically, so what we're looking at, when it comes to small business and gaining contracts, it's not about race or gender. It's about the service that you provide. So your next codes and your services is basically what we advocate as far as with the state agencies, as far as when they're looking for small businesses. And I can tell you, state agencies notify our office and send us RFPs. Everybody that requests for proposals, And I send them out of the database because they say, we can't do it all, we need your help. So we send it out to every business owner. If they say we're looking for landscaping, or they say we're looking for plumbing, we're looking for consulting, we'll go in there and in our database, put in consulting, everybody that does consulting get that RFP. And then I say this, but one thing we don't do, we don't read. I'm just being honest. I say I'm not the actually person to contact. I'm not the point of contact. So when you start emailing me back, then I know you're not reading. So that's one of the problems. We have to read these RFPs, RFQs, so you'll know what they're asking for. And
Do the other companies that are like landscapers, do all the landscapers know each other? By being all these landscapers, John may know something that Peter doesn't know, but Peter doesn't know who John is. So how does Peter meet John? And the fact is, there should be enough businesses or positions around that you can have 800 landscapers. These 100 landscapers don't know what they don't know. So who do they contact?
Okay.
Or how do they get around? Because I know you said something, oh, you might get now, never mind.
I can hear you.
The thing is that mentors, those who have made it to tier 3, a lot of times they say, yes, they have time to do it, but they actually don't. And the thing is, John may not feel comfortable around the guy that wears the three-piece suit over here, but he'll feel good with the guy over here who started off on the same neighborhood as he did.
Right.
So do those people know each other, or do they have a list that goes around to say, hey, you know, I'm starting off, I'm not gonna take money from you, you can take money over here, I'll go to east side, north side, west side, Georgia, wherever the heck you gotta go. But we don't know each other, and we don't know what we don't know.
And I get your point real quick, and I'm gonna pass it back to Brenton. But one of the problems I see is the reason a lot of you don't know each other, because when you walk in the room with someone you know, you sit down beside someone you know, you don't ever work the room to figure out who else is in the room.
About to do that. The
Well-
thing is, because let me explain this real quick. You can't start raising a child when he's 5 or 10 years old. You gotta start when he's a baby.
Right. We have workshops, small business development centers, but real quick, most people start a business and they miss all the startup steps. And then you think you're here, but you're here. So we try to put you back to where the foundation, because you missed the foundation, and that's why you think you're here, but you're not ready, because you missed all those steps in between there. So we have free services for actually business startup, but most business owners miss that. They don't want to be in the room. If you're not in the room, you don't know what's going on.
Thank you, Johnny. I'm gonna go through the rest of this fairly quickly. And so if you could do me a favor, if you could hold your questions, we will be here till the end of the presentation. But some of the benefits, race and gender neutral compliance, as was mentioned, competitive fields based on real business metrics, encouragement of business profession through structured support, and contract threshold. Basically, we don't want to have you take on more than you can bear. Next slide, please. We can go to the next slide, please. This has already been discussed. Next slide, please. All right, so once again, these are the division members. Next slide, please. All right, so a quick snapshot of minority businesses here in the state of South Carolina. Next slide, please. All right, as of February of this year, these are the number of certified minority businesses that are certified through SMBCC. Once again, the office of Johnny and my colleagues over here. 521 African Americans, of which 285 are men, 236 are women. Those numbers have changed slightly that you'll see on the next slide. 25 AAPI. Caucasian women are also certified through the program as well, 167, 34 Hispanic, and 6 Native Americans. State agencies, once again, are required to report their budget, and you'll see some of those numbers vary in a moment. But in the fiscal year 2022-2023, 111 state entities reported their findings to the division. Next slide, please. This is the total amount that was spent in fiscal year 2022-2023 for individuals who are certified through the program, over $27.7 million, okay? Of which 7.3 million went to African Americans, 14.6%, give or take, to Caucasian females. Hispanic businesses received about $414,000, and other minorities combined received right at about $5.4 million. Some of the hard numbers right there. Next slide, please. Some of the spending by group, or I should say spending by group per quarter. Once again, the highest number that we have is that number right here in orange, which represents the spending for Caucasian females. And then we also, once again, have African Americans grouped together, Hispanic, and other minorities. Next slide, please. All right. This is the more accurate information. We had a few more businesses for black men and black women that were certified since February. So now we are up to 269 black male-owned businesses certified, and once again, 242 black-owned women businesses certified. Once again, ownership is determined at 51% ownership or more. Next slide, please. This is just a very quick map to show you, this is just for the certified businesses, so I want to be very clear. This does not show all businesses owned by minorities in the state of South Carolina, only for those who are certified. Once again, you see that our population centers, Greenville, Columbia, and Charleston there in the Low Country, that's where we get most of our certifications. Now, it's very important to note, if you'll notice, most African Americans in the state live from right here all the way below. So there are a lot more businesses that can be attracted and that can be certified, and that can also, if we can get this tier system up and running, that can benefit from this. Of course, we also have African American and other people that live upstate, but historically, this is where you're gonna find it. We're gonna be in Orangeburg, Allendale, Bamberg, you know, all those good places. Next slide, please. This is just some quick demographics. So if you just wanna know just kind of the state as a whole. Now, this is not necessarily tied to business. Formerly, we would publish annually what's called a state statistical profile. That's an excellent document that has actually won awards from the state library as the best state agency produced document. We won that last year. Dr. Robert Fenton and his team do great work. But this just kind of shows you a dispersion chart, once again, of African Americans and other minorities throughout the state of South Carolina. The population shifts. So we are right now at about 1.3 million people in the state of South Carolina. For African Americans, excuse me. There are 5.3 million people in the state. To give you context, in 2023, the Parks, Recreation, and Tourism estimated that 5.3 million people visited Myrtle Beach alone. So as many people visit Myrtle Beach every year as live in the entire state of South Carolina. All right, next slide, please. Employment and labor force participation. Here, in 2011, it was right at about 16%. In 2016, for African Americans, it was right at about 13%. And what you see with labor force participation, and Dr. Fenton really should be the person to explain this a little bit better, but these particular rates at the end of the, excuse me, this is the unemployment rate, excuse me for that. Labor force participation rate for African Americans has gone up. So from 68% in 2011 all the way up to 70% in 2021. Next slide, please. Next slide, please. This just talks about age. We'll go to the next, well, I'm sorry. This is very important. Household income as it determined by people of color. As we will see, white is represented by this yellow line here. Minorities grouped together is represented by this blue line. It has steadily gone up for both groups, or both collections of groups, but not necessarily at the same rate. That's important to note. Next slide, please. Educational attainment. How many people in the state are actually attaining, whether it's a high school education or above? We have a lot more information on this as well, but I wanted to be able to present this to you. What we see is a majority of the people in the state either have a high school diploma or an equivalent, or some college or trade school. Right, next slide, please. Next slide, that's the same with educational attainment. Housing and affordability. Home ownership rates by ethnicity. It has steadily gone up over the years. However, 2021, and once again, that was COVID, so you had people who were losing their jobs, and there are other factors that play into that. For some demographic groups, for African Americans, you see a drop from 2011 to 2021. However, for other groups, particularly AAPI, you see an increase from 2011 to 2021. Part of that is an influx of people from Asian countries coming into the state. As of right now, along with our Hispanic Latino population, people from South and East Asia are the largest number of people who are immigrating into South Carolina from other countries. Next slide, please. And then just kind of a county level analysis, trying to see kind of where people are kind of scattered throughout our 3 large population centers, Charleston, Greenville, and also here in Richland, or I should say across the river in Richland County. And we can go to the next slide, please. This is very important. I started with the agency 6 months before the pandemic hit. One of the first calls I got after the pandemic hit and we had shut everything down and we started to slowly go back into the office, I got a call from one of the directors at SC Commerce. And the very first question I got was, businesses are closed, people need help. Do you have a directory as Minority Affairs of businesses in the state of South Carolina? And I was on the job less than a year. I didn't even know my way around. I had no idea that Johnny was doing the work that he was doing. And so I had to tell that individual, no, we don't have one. But once again, in my ignorance, I did not realize that we had a division that at the very least looked after certified minority businesses in the state. So what ended up happening through federal funding is the state of South Carolina, through the General Assembly, set aside $40 million for small and minority businesses. And they did something that the General Assembly, and this is not a knock on y'all, so please don't take it as such, did something that rarely if ever happens. Instead of it being a loan program, it was a grant program. And I told people, you will probably never see this again in your lifetime where the government will give you a grant, so you need to make sure you avail yourself of this particular program. And some people did not realize that, once again, there's a stark difference between grants and loans. Loans you got to pay back with interest, grants you don't have to. However, there was a kicker. Grants were offered between $2,500 and $25,000, once again, to small and minority businesses. The priority were to minority-owned businesses with less than 15 employees who at that particular time had received no other aid. So you were not able to avail yourself of those PPP funds and those other emergency funds from the federal government, and you were in high need, basically meaning I will close my doors in the next day or two if you do not get me funding. What ended up happening is this. Once again, $40 million was awarded to about 2,200 businesses altogether, an average of about $17,000 per business. However, and this is very important, over 9,600 businesses applied. The total request was $213 million, 5 times what had been allocated. I can tell you right now, our executive director served on that particular committee, along with the Secretary of Commerce and the director for the Department of Revenue. The very first thing that happened that got people cut out, once you send in an application, they immediately ran that business information through the state's tax system. If you had not paid taxes, it immediately did it did 2 things. It precluded you from being able to get funding, and it also put you on the radar that you had not been paying your taxes. And so if you think about it, it makes sense. If you had not been paying into the tax system, you should not necessarily avail yourself of the system for these particular funds. What we also found is many businesses were not set up correctly. You had people mixing personal funds and business funds, people without a tax ID number. I can tell you crazy stories about people, some individuals who I know, who started calling me, who said, can you get my application to so-and-so? And I had to tell them politely, no, I cannot. I am not going to go to jail because you need to get some funding and because you did not set your business up correctly, okay? So it's very important to note, once again, of all the award funds, 1,050 went to minority businesses, or 46% of the funding total. But this is something that we spoke with members of the General Assembly. Now, mind you, this is going on 5 years ago, and things have changed a lot in those 5 years. But we believe that this program needs to be reestablished in some way, shape, form, or fashion. And we, as an agency internally, we are looking at some measures that maybe that can happen through us as an agency. We want to prioritize any rejected applicants from round 1. So what we found was people would get rejected, but it might be for something that might have been necessarily minor. They filled out something wrong, or they didn't turn it in on time, and it's not like they turned it in 2 or 3 weeks later. They turned it in, instead of 11:59 a.m., they turned it in 11:59 p.m., something of that particular nature. So we're looking for a little bit more of forgiveness when it comes to that if all the other major criteria are met. And then to streamline, expand, and simplify the funding process. And once again, that's where our legislators come in. Next slide, please. All right, thank you. That is all that I have for right now. I will stop right there. Thank you, Representative. Once again, we will be here till the end. I know we sent a lot of information out. We are here. We are open to, if there is something that we have discussed that you think we should maybe look at in a different manner, if you have a particular experience that we are not necessarily taking into consideration, please let us know, because once again, we are state employees. We serve the people of South Carolina, which is all of you here in this room. Thank you once again.
Okay, thank you. Let's give him another hand. Wait a minute, Brenton, hold on. Contact information.
Oh, I ain't put it on the slide. I will stick around because I don't have any of my cards. I apologize. I left the office, and by the time I jumped out, realized I had my computer bag, but I did not have my portfolio with all my cards. But we will stick around, and we will get all the contact information out there.
Can you share your presentation?
Yes, yes.
Okay.
The presentation is free to be shared out.
Okay, so if you left your email address, we'll make sure that the presentation is emailed to you, and we'll also attach a picture of your card so that they can get in touch with the office. Was that good information? Yeah. So now he talked a lot about the certification process. Is that correct? Yes. But then we know a lot of our small black business, because there's a difference between minorities and black, right? And we know that. A lot of our black businesses are not certified. So did I hear you say that they can become certified and there's funds to help them and the office will?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so you all hear that? Let's share the information. Let's so keep the information that we received. We only have about 30 minutes for questions. Since Brenton's slide was 15 minutes and it turned to an hour, he told me 15 minutes. But that was good information, good information. We probably gonna have to end up do a part 2. We'll do a part 2. So we need the presenters to come be seated so that you all can ask the tough questions. But just before, Rep. Howard, you leaving?
He would call you out. Ain't no tipping out, Howard.
No tipping out. Because Representative Howard, I'm going to fast forward a little bit if you all don't mind. His family have a small business that's been around for 70 years. 70 years. So I wanted him just to talk a little bit about what they did to make sure that their business was successful. So if you give us 5 minutes real quick before you leave, or you just sit down and you just stay here. And, and then Representative Courtney Waters, she does a lot, and I think she have a good perspective on a few things dealing with small businesses. I want to give her 5 quick minutes. And y'all, please 5, because we don't have much time for questions. And we want, these folk have taken their time to come out. And then at the end, I will acknowledge the members of the Black Caucus that are here. So if you will go ahead, Rep. Howard. Here you go.
Thank you so much. I'm Leon Howard. I am a member of the South Carolina House of Representatives. I'm the 3rd ranking member of the General Assembly out of 170. And so, all this good information is great information, but all this is null and voided unless we go out and vote. I appreciate all the good talk that these young men up here telling us, but, unless we come out of these walls and get folks in position to make these things happen, all this happened at the ballot box. Now, we have 35 African-American lawmakers and 170 members of the South Carolina General Assembly. And all the things that we're talking about, you know, as you said, we need to go out and vote. My business is 70 years old. My father started in 1955. I thank my heavenly Father and my earthly Father every day for having me have the independence to be able to not get fired. I've never had a job in my life. I always worked for my father. When I was in middle school, my mother prided herself on a 4-year degree at Allen University. My father did not have a degree. And so I saw her check on the dresser one day when she worked at Fort Jackson. He made more money in 2 days than she made in 2 weeks. I said, something's wrong with this picture. So I decided to go to Midlands Tech, General Motors, and you know, continue in his path with the business. And I would like to say that local government is much more important, in my opinion. Local government has been a help to our business. Columbia City Council, Councilman E.W. Cromartie, a councilman forever, has been very instrumental in pushing minority businesses to make sure that minority businesses are included. I serve on Richland One School Board, along with Bishop Eric Davis' mother, Shirley Davis, Vince Ford, and others, and I'm just kind of rambling and moving fast. Richland One had done less than 1% of its business with minority-owned businesses, with a majority black board. And so, myself as a young chairman of the board at 32 years old, Vince Ford, Ms. Shirley Davis, Chris Lindsay, we told our staff that they had to do better. And they said, well, you know, minority business not certified, they can't do this, they can't do that. So I told the director that night that people don't bring their cars to my business and pay me to help them fix them. It was not my duty to try and figure out how he's going to increase minority business. If he couldn't figure it out in 2 weeks, we'll get somebody who could figure it out. And so in 2 weeks, he came back and he decided to give a minority business the first floor of C.A. Johnson, another one the second floor of a school, a Pizza Hut, a minority Pizza Hut. He decided to give the minority Pizza Hut Keenan Cafeteria. And so, the point I'm making is that local government we should focus on. We should focus on getting people elected to local government, city, county, city council, county council, school board, and real African Americans. Sometimes y'all don't have real African Americans elected. You have Negroes that look like me, but not committed. So you examine that close, because that is very dangerous. When you have someone look like me, look like Chairwoman McDaniel, who validates wrongdoing. And so you pay close attention to that. And finally, I'd like to say in closing, when I got out of General Motors, my brother and I, we painted all the police cars for the city of Columbia. And the inspector who was in charge of inspecting the vehicles wouldn't pass inspection. She said they didn't look good, we had to do them over. So my father had us bring them all back to our business. He said, don't paint them over, keep them 3 days, wash them, and take them back. So we did that. We kept them 2 or 3 days, we washed them, we took them back, and she said, oh, that's wonderful. She signed off and they passed inspection, and that's what we would do every time. We would take them, wash them, bring them back, pass inspection. So those are some of the things that we went through. Again, thank you so much.
Okay. Okay. All right, so we're going to open it up now for questions. Okay, let's give Shay Alexander, the owner of this establishment, a big round of applause. She is a black business owner by way of, is it Chicago? New York, by way of New York. And there's, this business has been successful here for 8 years. And it's a jazz night spot, beautiful place to come, nice, clean, you don't have to worry about any kind of foolishness. And so she allowed us to utilize, because we wanted a more relaxed atmosphere in which to have this conversation. And she's been so gracious to let us stay here another 30 minutes so that we can make sure that the questions are answered and that we can have some good information. And if we have to have a part 2, we will. Someone already asked me about taking the show on the road to Penn Center down in Beaufort. So we're willing to do that as well, because I am all about education. You give a person a fish, you feed them for a day. You teach them how to fish, you feed them for a lifetime. And we must learn, you all. We got to quit with all of the, and I know I'm going to say excuses and I'm going to get beat up for saying it because it's another word. But I was talking to Felicia Richard yesterday, because her mother's going to be buried in my district. And she was saying when her mother was growing up, she was real tough on them, extremely tough. But she told them, stop with all of the loud talking and move and show people what you're doing. And Martin Luther King said, when you cannot fly, you run. When you cannot run, you walk. When you cannot walk, you crawl. But by any means, you must keep on moving. So we must keep moving. We must show our value, our relevance. So let's get with the questions. We had Senator candidate Brandon Brown come in. We have Senator candidate Catherine Fleming Bruce here. Real quick, the members of the General Assembly, if y'all would stand real quick. I would give them the mic, but I'm going to wait till the end and let them introduce themselves, because you know we elected officials, because I ain't shut up since I've been up here. Okay, first question. Who want to? Somebody want to?
I have a comment. I think I talked loud, but I don't know if someone told me I really didn't. I want to comment on Representative Howard's comment about the cars. I want you to think, why did his father say that? Would we do that today with our educated selves? What would we have done? We would have started calling people and complaining. His father used this. He knew what was going on. So what he did was outwitted that lady. We have to learn to do that. We do too much talking. And when we have these little degrees, boy, we, My grandfather used to say, he couldn't read or write, but you know what he said? That's the educated fool. That's the educated fool. Don't have any common sense. He made a profound statement tonight. Think about it.
Right here. And so my question, as one of the few subject matter experts that is black here in the Midlands, and I can tell you that I have been to every county in this state. Those of you that know me and don't know me, I'm Javar Juarez, but I put the pedal to the metal. One of the things that's very difficult for me, especially during the time that we were facing rezoning, my community is an M1 district. That means that we're a light industrial district. So they continue to put gas stations and benzene chemicals in the ground. And when I called my representatives, nobody came. The only person that did come was Daniel Rickenman. In fact, he was the one that gave us the money to start the Broad River Business Alliance. We're the Carolina champions. We've allocated over $6 million worth of resources for Broad River, really effectively pushing against Christy Hall and the Department of Transportation to help shape that district into what it's becoming today. I would like to know, is local really a priority for the members of the State House? Is it beneath members of the State House? Because when we are at zoning and planning, and I'm one that is, I'm regularly at zoning and planning, trying to shape the built landscape. I always say charity is not change. I'm working to shape the built environment so that charity is unnecessary. What is the priority for local government in the State House?
I'm sure, as all of you can imagine, there is a diversity of personalities at the State House. And the ones that I'm most familiar with, most of them are sitting over here. The answer to that question is unequivocally yes. They are very much rooted in their communities because they're still citizens of their community. But one thing that we want to encourage you to do and I think you did, and you just demonstrated that, it takes the voices of the people still to make sure that they push forth their issues and make sure that if your representative is not responding like you want them to, you have the power of the ballot, but you also have the power of your voice. There's still the ability, we would like everybody to do what's right. Sometimes you got to shame people into doing what's right. And you have the ability to do that. But I will speak on behalf, especially of the folks that are here. They probably spend more time in their local area than they do trying to deal with the state issues, because they just said, as Howard just said, we realize that the place of greatest influence is the closer you get to the people. And that's why many of us even run for the House, because we got to do it every 2 years. That means we should be closer to the people. And so there's a deep interest and a deep commitment from the people that I call friend at the State House. They want to make sure that when they go home, home is good. But also, we also can use our influence more at home, because down the street, it's kind of hard to get something done.
Let me just real quickly just add to that. The budget for the state does have money in it that goes directly to our local governments to help them out. But let's not be mistaken. Who we elect matters. And when you elect people and you see that they're not keeping the property up, having proper ordinances in place to make sure things are happening in your community that needs to be happening there, we don't have a whole lot of control over that. It's about them. So if you don't demand, then a lot of times it doesn't happen. And if you are not able to make contact with who you elect on the local level, now that's a serious problem. You're much closer to your local elected officials than what you are to us. And they levy taxes for money to come in. They have business license. They have all kind of avenues for money to come in. But if you don't pay attention to how they're spending money, if you don't go to the local governmental meetings and ask those questions and share your concerns about things that are not in your community, then you call us. There's nothing we can do. And it's very important for you to know your local governments, to know what they are in charge of. You do not call your school district because your road needs scraping. So know what they do. Hold them accountable. I'm telling you all, if we don't decide that it's time for us to take control and show our relevance in this state, then we're going to miss out on a whole lot, and the people who are going to suffer the most are those who are coming behind us. Thank you.
I'd like to add one thing to what Representative McDaniel said. I can't understate or overstate, I should say, the importance of civic education. If you don't know, as she just mentioned, who your local elected officials are, and more importantly, what their roles are, a lot of the problems that people have don't necessarily, as they mentioned before, trickle down to the State House. A lot of the issues that people have are, as she mentioned, local elected officials are the ones who can solve those particular problems. And I use this as an example, but I think, you know, without a doubt, Congressman Clyburn is the most famous member of our legislative delegation. And I've had conversations with people in the upstate, other parts of the PD that are not in the 6th Congressional District, in the western part of the state, and they have literally called our office and said, well, I've called Congressman Clyburn's office 17 times and tried to get him to solve this. And I have to mention to them, Congressman Clyburn is not your congressperson. But not only that, and I'm using this as an example, so let me be clear, but not only that, the issue that you have about your local road is not an issue that he deals with. And so what really needs to occur, and this is something, this is a shameless plug, this is something that we do as an agency. There is a civic engagement and education academy that we do for free, and I've done it recently. And it is basically broken down into different parts. Part 1A is basically, I don't know anything, I've just moved to South Carolina, or I'm ignorant about what political systems are and people in place in South Carolina. Who are the players? And if you don't know who the players are, you're already behind the cue ball at that particular point. So it's very important to know who the players are, important to know what their roles are and what they can and cannot do. If you live in Richland County, but you don't live in the city of Columbia, contacting your city council person when you technically don't have one is not going to benefit you. And I know that I'm preaching to the choir, but these are conversations that I have with people across the state all the time. They call into the agency. They have issues with housing and things of that nature. And they're like, I've literally had people who said I've called the White House. But I understand at the end of the day, they are passionate about getting their problem solved. They just don't know the correct direction to go in. And so, like I said, that's something that we as an agency offer. We offer that free of charge. Everything we do as an agency is free of charge. It's paid through taxpayer funds. And so that's something that's out there. But if that's something we need to do, please let us know. We'll schedule that to come out.
No more questions? Are y'all ready to go home?
Can I add one more
Yeah,
point?
go ahead.
The very first project I worked on when I started in September of 2019 was the 2020 census. And I don't think people understand how decisions that were made during that particular process have dominoed to where we are now. I'm not concerned about where you are, about how you feel about, I'm speaking middle of the road here. The census does two extremely important things. It determines political power, it determines economic power. Sadly, what we are going to see in this state, South Carolina is the #1 destination for one-way U-Haul trips. You can look this up. People are coming to South Carolina. The snowbirds from up north, they have made their money. They're tired of the cold winters. They want to go to the beach. Everybody named Mama, for some reason, loves Myrtle Beach. I'm not a Myrtle Beach fan, but that's okay. But what I mean by that is they come here and we need infrastructure to be able to support people. We need infrastructure for a lot of these rural communities where I'll use Columbia, for example. You know, when I was growing up here in Columbia, there was no such thing as a Sandhills. Nobody thought about, you didn't go past Sesqui when I was growing up back in the 90s. You just didn't. There was nothing out there past Sesqui with the exception of Spring Valley. And we went out to Spring Valley if you had a football game or something of that nature, or if we took the SAT and you couldn't get at AC Flora. I still remember that. But the growth that we are seeing in our counties, you need infrastructure to bring businesses in, to support communities, and a lot of that is not going to occur because people weren't adequately counted, and because they were not adequately counted, you're not going to get the funding that you need to build up these communities. And so we're coming up very soon, quicker than most people expect. 2030 will be here before you realize it. If you're paying attention to what's going on down in Texas and some other states, 2030 is already here. So what I mean by that is you have to understand the political system that we live in. You have to understand civics. And I tell people this is a hill that I am willing to die on. You have to understand. So the census is coming up. The first thing that we worked on as an agency, South Carolina put forth exactly $0 to ensure a complete count on the census. Zero. The state of California put forth $100 million. Now, yes, I understand. California and its economy, top 10 in the world. But California saw the value of setting aside $100 million that they could have placed someplace else to at least say we want to try to get as close as we can to an accurate count. Because the truth of the matter is the people are here. They're using the services. And we need to have the infrastructure in place to be able to benefit people.
Yes, sir. Rep. Govan.
Thank you. State Representative Jerry Govan. I represent Orangeburg County, Lexington County. I'm the old man in the group, but I just want to point out a couple of things and give some kudos to this group, this Legislative Black Caucus. First of all, Minority Affairs was created by 18 African Americans in the Legislative Black Caucus. I think Cobb Hunter and I are the last, or the only two that are left, that created Minority Affairs. And so what you see here is an entity that was created by African American leaders who saw a need, and here it is, 2025, and that entity is still around. And I think you need to give these individuals, this next generation of leadership, my colleagues in here, and under the leadership of Annie McDaniel, you know, we get a lot of criticism about what we're not doing in Columbia. Well, ladies and gentlemen, I'm standing here to tell you that what you see sitting before you is a result of the commitment and dedication that went back over 30-something years ago that is still alive because African Americans deemed it important. Some are here with us, but then many have gone on to glory. So the fight is not over. I'm proud of this caucus. I'm proud of the young bloods that are here today, and I'm proud of our leadership, and I think y'all should give them a round of applause. And by the way, I just want to say one other thing. We have to create the next generation of leadership. Like I said, I'm the old man in the group, but I can remember the only African American and the first African American head of a small business development center in the state of South Carolina. That is a legacy, but it means nothing if we don't have the next generation. That's what I want to say. Thank you.
I want to reiterate something. No, go ahead, then I'll come back to that.
I appreciate you,
Because he
Representative.
tapped on the 2030, but it's a lot more than just the 2030. But go ahead.
So, Representative Jones, you talked about in your presentation what I heard, community mindset. And so often as black folk, we tend to experience crabs in a basket. Selfishness, me. So can you talk a little bit about how can we continue to work on improving the community mindset as it relates to strengthening economic and political power? And I am Tracy Richardson, the current Political Action Chair and Secretary of the NAACP, South Atlantic Region of Delta Sigma Theta, Sorority Incorporated Social Action Coordinator, and the South Carolina Social Justice Coordinator for the NCNW. Thank you.
She rattled those things off nicely, didn't she? I like that. Like you, Miss Tracy, that's my frustration. With all the craziness that's going on right now, one of the things that I'm hoping that's coming out of it is that the pain we feel is forcing us to do right, forcing us to realize that we are all we have and nobody's coming to our rescue. But also I want to remind us that what you just described is actually in our DNA. It's in our bloodline, and we still have some people who are alive today that will try to remind us that there was a time when we had to support one another. And so we're trying to overcome that. But what we got to begin to do is like what everybody's been saying, we've got to talk and we've got to teach. But at the same time, we got to have, which most folks may not want to hear, we got to have reasonable expectations. We can do this even if we don't get 100% participation. Whoever's willing to show up has to show up. And those of us who will be early adopters will be the ones who will be the examples and the leaders. The rest will come along as they begin to see the benefit of it. That's why when I gave you those numbers, I said, if we just got 10%, just 10%, if we hold on to 10% of what we contribute to GDP, we got several hundreds of millions of dollars of impact. So it doesn't take a large number of people. It takes a committed few to be the example. And then, as you know, others will come along as they see the success. So some of us got to be okay with plowing the field and wait for others to come along. But we have to make the decision now. Because as I stated earlier, we need to do what we wish others had done for us. We wish they had laid more of an infrastructure for us. But we can't keep complaining. We got to be the ones who go now. And again, our grandbabies won't know our frustration because it will be normalized by the time they come along. That has to be our goal and our motivation. But the time is now, and Trump is forcing our hands.
Okay, so go ahead.
and I'm going to follow the suit of this queen over here. My name is LaShawn Edmonds. I'm the patient, inventor, and founder of Care Shoots. I'm from Greenville, South Carolina, so...
And my church member.
Look, my pastor. Shout out to my pastor, okay? So I love everything that your proposal, and I apologize, I do not remember your name, sir, but the proposal you have for the tiered approaches. So my biggest question is, what are we doing for innovation? Because as an inventor, I would love to see a lot of funding that would, can funnel down for us, but some kind of program that's geared towards innovation. Just want to hear your thoughts on that.
So when it comes to that, it goes back to, when it comes to that, I think it goes back to kind of what I mentioned before. It is first and foremost, and our legislators can attest to this, you can write legislation. So you could literally craft a program that you feel is going to benefit the issue that you have, and you can present it to a member, to your pastor, because he's a member of the General Assembly, and ask him to go through it, and then see if that's something that he is willing to put forward as a sponsor. And the reason why I say that is, it could be outsourced to us, but how I think that it may benefit you may not necessarily be the program that you actually need. And so what I suggest, and this is part of what I suggest when we do our Civic Engagement Academy, is go ahead and draw up the blueprint for it yourself. Speak with experts who know the legislative process, who know the budget process, because that's going to be extremely important as well, but who understand how funding could go out to fund innovation. Look at other states that have already done this, or look at local governments within the state that may already have a program, and see if that program can be piloted, whether it's through a state agency's budget or whether it's through legislation. And so there are different ways, there are different kind of funding mechanisms, and not to hit too much because they can speak much more competently than I can. One way to do it was through the Community Investment Program, what people had termed earmarks. And that program for as of right now has been kind of set aside. But there are ways in which, if you have a proposal, you might be able to approach an agency early enough in the process to say, is this something that aligns with your divisions or your particular programs, to see if you could put in your budget just on a non-recurring basis, which means try to do it for 1 year. We'll pilot it for 1 year, we'll track it for 1 year. If it's successful, then try to do it again on a recurring basis or another non-recurring basis, and then scaffold it up from there. So there are different ways in which you as an individual could kind of pilot that particular program, but the most important thing is for you to have ownership of it, in the sense that you're the person, because you know your need much more than I do. You can craft it in such a way, and then you market that out to say, is this a possibility from the governmental standpoint for you to be able to do something of that nature?
Andy, can I speak to that too? Sean, there are some stuff that we need to do here as a state to make ourselves a little bit more VC friendly. Because you need unconventional financing when you're talking about innovation. You're talking about dollars that are poured into research and development, that you can't have a steady repayment stream back. They need give you a little time. Our state has not done a good job of making ourselves look VC friendly, unlike our neighbors to the north of us in North Carolina. What North Carolina does differently than we do, North Carolina inspires innovation, because in the research triangle, whether it's Duke and Chapel Hill and North Carolina State, they have one unique thing that South Carolina has not been willing to do yet, is that they allow the students and the professors who create things on those campuses to have ownership of what they create. That sparks innovation. That's why the research triangle has blown up, and it's surrounded by those who are willing to invest in those ideas. Here in South Carolina, if stuff is created on a campus, it belongs to the college. So that sends a message to the VC folks that we are not behind. That's the messaging that goes out to that world. And so that's something that we need to discuss here in South Carolina. And that is a state house conversation. And it's going to be a little struggle, because the colleges like that control. But if we're gonna make a decision that we want to be that kind of state and attract that kind of intellect and inspire folks like yourself, we need to make that change legislatively.
The question was, how do we inspire change legislatively?
Well, the easy answer is vote, but One of the things that I've noticed in just my short time in the State House, we have to do a much better job of advocacy. We don't advocate for ourselves. My colleagues will tell you that the other side, the other persuasions are standing in our doorways all the time. It's nothing for us to show up at the desk and have a stack of petitions on our desk. They have a stack of pink sheets on the desk where all these folks are calling to ask you to support something or not to support something. We have to do a better job of understanding that we have that power. See, it's a beautiful thing when it's Delta Day or AKA Day and they're all over the place. And man, that's a wonderful thing to see us in the hallways and petitioning their legislators to consider their interests. We have to do the same thing. They need to get tired of seeing you come. They need to get tired of hearing you on the phone. Because if you send us down there by ourselves, you send us down there by ourselves. And what they'll do is try to figure out how much influence we have by seeing how much y'all back us. When we make the phone call that something is serious going on, or we make the phone call that you need to come give testimony, y'all got to come running. But sometimes it's hard for us to get the people to back us up, so it's us against all of them, and they can be very dismissive. And they are very dismissive. They'll tell us to our face when they end that we ain't got to do nothing you ask for. But when they start to see you, it's different when y'all are climbing all over that building. We have to do a much better job of showing up and saying, we support that bill, and we need you to support that bill. Because what they're afraid of more than anything is losing an election.
I'm going to come to your question real quick. Everybody have their cell phones?
Yes.
Let's pull them out. Go to your app. I need you to download SC Legislature the SC Legislature app if you do not have it downloaded. That's like having the South Carolina General Assembly in your purse, in your pocket. You can see when committees are going to be meeting, and you can sign up to speak at subcommittee meetings. That's right. You don't have to wait on us. And I would love to see you all come and testify on different bills that are coming up. And if you see a bill that has been introduced that has not come up, you can call the chair and say, look, I'm interested in this bill. Y'all can do that on our behalf. And he may take it up, they may not. But at least you will have allowed your voice to be heard. Come down to the General Assembly, sit up in the, what we call that thing up there? The gallery. The gallery. So when we look up, and when they look up, those powers to be that are making decisions that are not good for our interests, then they see us sitting up there, they know that we're concerned, because everybody have mixtures in their district. Nobody's district is 100% white, 1% black, or anything else. But real quick, 2016 is an election year. If you have any municipal elections coming up, please vote in those elections.
2026.
I'm sorry, what year it is?
2026. I wish we could go back too, Andy.
I guess that's how old I want to be again. We have the 2026 election coming up, so you all please get to know these candidates. Catherine Fleming Bruce is running for the Senate. She was here, she had to leave. We have Brandon Brown. If you would stand so they can see who you are. He's running
against Lindsey Graham.
And please talk to him before you leave. Know the platforms. Get educated. Get educated.
He's running for Lindsey Graham's seat.
He said stand. All right, y'all see what he looked like. So the election coming up in 2026, are there any other elected officials? Anybody? Okay. So we're really praying that we're going to make a difference and we're going to make a move. Y'all know we're in a supermajority in the State House. And we need to at least close the gap. You know, Texas was able to leave when stuff was going on that wasn't good for them. If we all leave, what they going to do?
Go ahead and vote.
They just going to keep passing legislation. Oh, we can just go now. So we sincerely really need to close that gap. And the only way we're going to do it is for us to go out and vote. It's, I think when Cory Booker ran for president, he said there was 1 million votes on the table in the black community, if I'm not mistaken, that did not occur. So your neighbors. If you're a pastor here, where the pastors at? We got quite a few of them in here. Stand real quick. All right. All right. It's good to know that you all care. So if you do not have a civic engagement ministry at your church, you need to have one. I'm not God, I don't tell you what to do, but I'm praying that he gonna put it in your spirit, because you can teach them at church where you got a nice little gathering, so people can get involved and know what's going on. The democracy, it belongs to us, but we're leaving it on the table. So we need to vote, and we need to make sure that we get to know the candidates and make sure they hear from us. Don't just vote for us and leave us alone, because then we do what we want to do. So your question.
Yes. I'm Minister Benet Floyd. I am one of the ministers under Pastor Wendell Jones. I am also the founder and director of Heavenly Touch Ministries, and I also am a part of the Community Council for Progress. My question is for you. You talked about second chance. Now, I have been coming to Columbia ever since Ralph Anderson was alive. He was my dad's frat brother, so I am a Zeta Phi Theta, 4 generations strong. I have a lot of family here in Columbia. My question is this, because I used to come to Clergy on the Dome. I literally have been doing prison ministry for 17 years. We talk about second chance, but every time we get one foot in the door to help a returning citizen come back, they're faced with so many other obstacles, so many things that they cannot go to work, or they can't. For one, primarily is this: if you have a drug offense, you're never going to get food stamps. You're never going to get housing assistance. So my concern is, what are we going to do? Because I advocate for those who don't have a voice. I literally, I go to bed at night with women on my mind, women with children that have gotten out of prison because their families have disowned them for making a mistake trying to feed their kids. But then when they come back to the state, they are faced with obstacles of trying to get food or trying to get these things necessary. And I do pride every pastor in here that has given distribution to homeless and people that are hungry. We do so much, but on a government level, what can we do to be able to provide more? Because I came to the state with a goal to have a transition housing. Now I'm partnering with people who own properties to try to do the network, the things that you all are talking about, pulling our resources together, me with my knowledge for prison ministry and all of the things, and them with their resources of owning the houses and having the things. How can we get that government funding so that we can be able to serve more people?
Yes, ma'am. So I think I'll answer it in this way, and Representative Jones and McDaniel have talked about this as some of the other legislators. First, you have to make sure that the individuals who are in power understand what the issues are. And then when you do that and you go to them, it's very important to have a plan. So I would say, and let's just talk for just hypothetically for a moment, just about women who are leaving, who now have to help, who need help taking care of their children. It needs to be very systematic. It needs to be very, very detailed. We have X number of women coming back into Richland County every year. Child care in this particular part of Richland County where they're going to costs X amount. We need to have some sort of funding that is able to assist child care facilities to defray the cost, so it can then be trickled down into these homes to be able to assist these women so that they can have adequate child care, so they can then go out and go find adequate employment. So it needs to be something that's very detailed, very systematic. And then it also needs to be something that's built in with the coalition. So find out what other people in Richland County hypothetically are doing, find out what people in other parts of the state are doing, and then see what available funding is already out there. And so what I always try to tell people is, a lot of times what will happen is people will go and they'll talk to their elected official, and I'll use Representative McDaniel for, I need her to vote for this for issue A. And for whatever reason, she's against issue A. And so now I'm mad, and the first thing that I do is I go on Twitter and I start blasting her. Tell people all the time it's the worst thing in the world you can do. Number one, yes, she's your representative, but she's also a human being. And she may be against you for whatever reason on issue A, but she's gonna be your staunchest advocate on issue B. So what you want to do is, starting now, you want to build those particular relationships. And so you also want to know, what committees does she sit on? I know she sits on Ways and Means. And so that means, you don't sit on Ways and Means? I'm sorry. Forgive me. I'm getting old.
Come through, Jesus. Come through, Jesus.
I'm sorry. All right. But let's say if she sat on Ways and Means, you need to understand what Ways and Means, what it is. They deal with money. I'm not saying you particular, but yes, ma'am. So I would say, find out what the issue is, find out who that elected official, whoever that individual may be that can assist you, but then come to them with a plan. But most importantly, talk about the economic impact that is happening in their district because these particular programs are not in place. You need to be able to say, we're wasting X amount of tax dollars because we're wasting $5 million a year when if we just invest $500,000, we'll be able to use that other $4.5 million someplace else, if that makes sense.
And I do have one,
Yes, ma'am.
one other part for that, because in my 17 years, we have so much for South Carolina probation people coming from the state. My concern is on a federal level, this is where we drop the ball. So I can give you data for 17 years of what's happening within the state of South Carolina. But when I deal with people who contact me who have gotten out of federal prison, we're not calculating that on a state, from the state. So we're looking at funding people who have gotten out of SCDC. And I think we need to do a better job on a federal level because I host resume drives, we do pardons, but every pardon workshop that has taken place that I've ever been a part of has been to help someone get off of a state sentence. That's very minute. And I've been at the Clergy on the Dome, they let me speak and all of that years ago. And I talked to them about what are we doing from a federal level. And here we are, 17 years later, we're still doing a state. We're not doing anything for the people that are getting out of federal prison.
What I can say, unfortunately, I'm not aware of what's occurring on the federal level, but if I'll give you my contact information, and we can follow up on that, and we can figure out what's being done and what kind of solutions can occur.
I'd like to real quickly echo something you said. I'm gonna say it a little bit different. This for you and for everybody else is that what we got to get in the habit of, y'all, is we got to start making a business case for what we want. Because many times we lead with morality. It's just the right thing to do, and it's still the right thing to do. But oftentimes that doesn't get a whole lot of traction. And so what we've got to learn to do is begin to show how this impacts the state financially. And so when we can do that and get a little bit better at that, and we're getting better at that as legislators, then we have an argument to stand on. We don't want this to sink down into these culture wars and morality battles. We don't win those. We're not going to win those. But if we can show the dollars and cents, the return on this investment to the state, then we have a case to be made.
My assistant brother legislators, y'all want to?
Good evening. I thought I'd give everybody a chance to speak because we've been sitting down for a little while, and you might need to get some blood flowing, some activity going. There's a lot I have a lot of thoughts. And first of all, my name is Courtney Waters. I'm the newest here, elected State House representative from North Charleston, not Charleston, North Charleston. And the town of Lincolnville. I have the privilege of having 2 Black settlement communities in my district, one of which is the last one that still has its own municipality. And that means a great deal to me. And I have a lot of thoughts. And one of the reasons that Rep. McDaniel asked me to say a few words, and this is not meant to be adversarial in any way, but as a part of my background, I worked in business development for close to 6 years for one of the largest minority-owned supplier development companies in the country. At the time, about $516 million. That company actually moved me here to South Carolina because 2 of their largest clients were Boeing and Mercedes-Benz. So I lived in Alabama learning about that work, and was privileged to be able to sit at the table with a CEO and the chairman of a company that large that was Black owned. And one of the realities is we did used to get business because we were minorities. The National Minority Supplier Development Council is the avenue, the mechanism that I predominantly work through because they put corporations in the room with minority businesses. And something that was interesting is, of course, at some point WeBank, the women-owned business enterprise network, came into play and opened up an avenue for white women to outpace us. And if you saw his slides, you saw that by the number, there are fewer white woman-owned firms, but they have a far greater share of the revenue. And what I want you to hold on to is these gentlemen have to do their jobs, right? The name of the game has changed, and this is why it's certainly not a personal attack. They did everything they're supposed to do. This is about rural work now, and so now it's just about being a small business. But I want us to be thinking about and advocating for what that's going to mean for our businesses that will get shut out, because this gentleman was right. A lot of times our smaller businesses, those that earn under $1 million, are not ready to do business. But this is where, and this is going to lead me to my second point, this is where incubation opportunities need to come into play. And the state, and y'all did wonderful work. I advocated for y'all on the floor. I didn't want that name to change. But the state is not going to offer the best tools for that. We can, though. We have people in our communities like Leon Howard and folks who have run businesses successfully who can do that. And so my second point is that honestly what I'm thinking heavily about is this piece that Rep. Jones brought up at the very beginning around taking care of each other. A lot, actually almost all of this conversation occurred over the heads of the masses of us. And so when we think about the state of Black South Carolina, they're not predominantly middle class. They're not predominantly even going to be able to be represented and counted in these slides about minority-owned businesses because they're not owning them. And I'm speaking for folks in my district where folks are making $45,000 a year with a terrible roof and paying a $700 light bill because the energy is literally seeping through their roofs. This conversation was not about them tonight, and that's not a knock. It's actually an invitation to say part 2 needs to be some ground conversation. It is our job in this moment to bring up and build agency in our communities because they're not voting because they're ignorant. These folks are smart. Some of them are choosing not to vote because they've decided that whether they vote or not, there is no difference to them. Some of the others will admittedly tell you they don't know enough about the political system, but they know a great deal about the lives that they're trying to hold together, oftentimes with glue and sticky tape. And that's their focus, but we're not feeding them. We're not paying light bills. If you take a family and you feed them and you pay their bills and you give them babysitters so they can work more hours, I guarantee you they'll start showing up at their children's schools. I was on school board. I was a classroom teacher. People are not showing up because they are slack, as I heard one Black Republican say down in the Low Country. They're not showing up because they're preoccupied. And those of us who are Black and middle class, it's actually our job. There's a statistic in one of the foundational texts of my life that says, oh, and I guess I should, the color of law. I'm very, very concerned with the idea of housing as a way to get into the game, the ability to buy a house because it changed my life. But there's a statistic, and it's old, probably from about 2018, I don't know where it is now, but that only about 24% of Black people will exit the income level or band, like low income, middle class, et cetera, of their parents. So if you're like me and you grew up extraordinarily poor, concrete floors and cinder block walls in the projects with no furniture, but you've owned a couple of properties and you've been able to get educated and make something of yourself, you have a responsibility to bring up the next. And the thing about it is, these state of Black South Carolina conversations need to focus on the masses and still create space to do all of the things that we're talking about, but you can't even get there. You can't even show up and be counted in these statistics if you can't pay your light bill, if you can't feed your family, if you don't have a way to go. And so I just want to offer that invitation, and I want to offer a push that this piece of legislation that you all are offering be bulletproof in ensuring that it includes some requirements that we're going to work with underrepresented demographics. Because it doesn't matter what they say. The name of the game today is no diversity, equity, and inclusion. The terms will change, but we still have to care for our people. Because if Black folks are not well, nobody is well. And if Black folks, all Black folks, and I'm going to say to all of us socially conservative Black folks, if all trans folks and everybody else ain't free, ain't nobody free. And so we have to get out of our own way and open ourselves up to helping each other because it's our duty. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Awesome.
Starting with the right narrative. Support Black media. Support Black media because we are out here. I'm the only one in the South Carolina Press Association. And let me just say this, thank you to the South Carolina Legislative Black Caucus. God bless you. Y'all give them a round of applause. Because Madam Chair has not left me out on a limb like some legislators have. Because the news media dominates, and legacy media, they're not gonna tell our story. They told me that nobody was gonna read. Representative McDaniel said, "You keep on, boy." Y'all know she sound like that, right? And here we are, 50,000 subscribers strong. We were inducted into the South. Yeah, you can give that up. You can give that up. She even gave me a little change, y'all. But I paused there, and she gave me leeway to do that because this year we were inducted into the South Carolina Press Association. That really does mean that we are the single Black-owned digital news platform in the Press Association. That means our stories qualify for grand prizes, our photographers qualify for grand prizes, our ads qualify for grand prizes. Advertise with us. We are the voice of the people. The way that people get their news, it's changed. You can keep writing and subscribing to the Post and Courier or to the State, but guess what? All of their news is behind a firewall. You have to get news through Newsbreak, and then you have to be careful with what you see on Newsbreak, because it may not be good for you. It's always us laid out somewhere, amen? It's never about the successes that we're listening to in this room. So I urge you all, I've left my card there. You can go to cubnsc.com. We're gonna feature tonight's story, all the wonderful information from our legislators. I love highlighting our Legislative Black Caucus because I want you to know that they also got swag, and swag matters in the hood, and the hood will rise again, and that's who we want to rise, amen? So y'all support Black news media. We're promoting your businesses. Advertise with us. First of all, we're cheaper, and we can actually give you reach across 20 counties. They said nobody was gonna read. And now, with Madam Chair's help, we're in 20 rural counties. 50,000 people are reading us across the state. So we just wanna say thank you to the SCLBC. Keep doing the great work, and we're gonna keep stomping for y'all.
Thank you, thank you. Any other questions? Real quick. No more questions. You want to speak? You want to say something? Not campaign. Our chair-elect, Representative Michael Rivers.
No, it's just that, continuing what has been said, this is not a spectator sport. Football season is about to start, and we're going to sit on our couch and look at football. But when it comes down to your communities and our communities, our districts, you got to get in and get your hand dirty. It's easier for us to fan the fire than to start the fire and fan it also. Does that make any sense? And locally, Penn Center, St. Helena Island, and you all can probably tell by my bilingual ability, being that I'm Gullah, we've been having the Penn Center Heritage Day Parade for 40 years. 40 years. And now this year and last year, they redirected the route. I didn't do real well in school, but I graduated from Claflin magna cum laude, but I bribed the teacher, but anyway. If you increase the distance, you're going to increase the time. And what they're doing to us now, because of the new influx of people that are coming to Fripp Island and to the islands, they're saying that we have to relegate our parade to the backwoods. But they love us. And they make money off of the Gullah community. So what I'm saying, we have to all step up because we are all in this together. It doesn't matter if you're from the low country, the upstate, when it comes down to people that look like us. And I'm going to say something to the people that don't look like us. Everybody came from us, but I'm going to leave that alone. Well, now, in being a preacher, the book says, and ye shall know the truth, and the truth shall make you free. And to make sure I'm not plagiarizing, that's St. John 8:31, if you want to check it out. But really, we need your help. We're all in this together. And last time I checked, we all came from the same blood. Right? So we have to remember that. But you got some crazy folks up in Colombia right now. But also the scripture says, what then shall we do to say to these things? If God be for us, who can be against us? And y'all know he for us because we done come through so many things. And he didn't bring us this far to leave us. And as I take my seat, thank God for our chairperson. Thank God for all the Legislative Black Caucus members. And I'm going to say it. We all black. We just don't know it. Thanks.
Brother Brandon Brown is a small business owner himself. You want to say a few comments before we close out?
Madam Chair, and to members of the Legislative Black Caucus, and to all gathered here today, I'm Brandon Brown. I'm proud of my state. I'm proud of this body for the work that continues to happen to represent us. I am so compassionate about people. I own a small business. My family has 2 funeral homes. And I got in this race because this young lady struggled for almost 9 months and couldn't get her insulin and died. And there's no look that you can have in 2 little children's face, knowing that they have to depend on their grandparents. These are the communities I serve. And when I hear somebody like Lindsey Graham make joke about cutting rural health care, make joke about cutting Medicaid and Medicare, jokes about cutting funding for higher education. Limestone University, $60 million economic impact, closed. And what did our senators do? Nothing. Didn't say a word. And so as we engage in this, what I see, and as Joe Biden said so long ago, the trouble in the soul of America, we have to fight for the soul of South Carolina. Not sending troops to Washington, D.C. when we have our own problems here. Joking about passing legislation to help Washington, D.C., but not South Carolina. And legislators, you fight every day. Every day. And if you recall, Lindsey Graham was one of the first persons to say, keep the flag on top of the State House. Keep it flying. And I can remember Senator Pinckney when he was at Allen Temple during conferences talking about he would be dead before that flag came down. Couldn't believe that, but it happened. And now we're in a time that we have a pathway forward through grassroots. We know that you can't win elections just behind a computer screen. You got to go in communities and talk to people and get people to register. And I do want to tell Representative that I was one of the first call me Mr. Recruiter at Claflin University. My grandfather walked from his hometown to get his high school diploma at Claflin. And he later went to state, where Representative Govan is so happy with. But I'm going to be quiet in just a minute. But I'm urging you to join this grassroots effort. 40 days, I've already been to 24 counties. 40 days, we already have 200 volunteers. 40 days, I have over 1,500 people who have donated to my campaign. And you know what, Sarah? Ralph Anderson was my frat brother. Yes. So I want to say 3 things to you. I need your prayers. I need your help, your vote, your financial support. And I need you to help me bury Lindsey Graham's political career. Thank you, and God bless you.
And let me be clear that we are a 501c4, which we can do limited endorsements, even though we're not endorsing, because our young lady here, Catherine Fleming Bruce, is also running for the same seat. But get educated and decide who you want to vote for and who you want to support based on what they will do. But we're going to close this out. Y'all from Greenville showed out tonight, to the Low Country, to the Midlands. I'm telling y'all. But very quickly, he talked. I think the only representative that we did acknowledge was Representative Hamilton Grant. If you have any questions about finance, banking, if your money is sitting in a savings account not drawing interest, please talk to him so he can help you out. But we also have South Carolina Education Association President, Dina Cruz, with us. If there's anything y'all know that we need to do, we need to support education, get our babies educated. So please communicate with her. Please talk to her, see what we can do to help these school districts make sure our babies get educated. We have Columbia Branch NAAC President Ovita Glover here. We have Rep. Jones's wife, Dr. Jones, here. So if y'all need a OBGYN, she right here. Look her up. Let me see who else we got in here. I don't want to miss nobody. Shout out real quick. Who you are? I can't see number red. What? Can't see number red. You need a mic. You need a mic. We can't hear you.
I just wanted to recognize my good friend and one of the major faith groups, Faith Group for Action. Reverend Dr. Robert Johnson is here, and he just decided to come in because he wanted to see what the Legislative Black Caucus was doing.
And we have another pastor from Orangeburg, Pastor Green. He stopped by my office to talk to me, and I told him about the event, and y'all see he's here, so he's interested. We getting fired up. Who else in here? What small businesses we have? Any other small businesses? Oh, and we have Bruce Bacon, who's the Fairfield County Electric Cooperative. I consider him one of my constituents, and he think he white, but he black. I tell him that all. And his colleague, what's your name again? Yeah, okay. So you all, this have been great. If you want it to keep going, give us some comments. Let us know. We have a few other summits coming up. We need your emails so we can give you all of the information. My heart just bleeds for the turnout here and enthusiasm, and think I wasn't watching. I ain't seen not one person go to sleep. Not one. So that means everything was great. Let's give our speakers a hand. And I know Shay is ready to close up, but y'all remember Shay, we covered it up. Shay's Lounge. And she have music here Thursday, Friday, and Saturday, or just Friday? Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. So if you're in the area, please patronize her and come out, and so she can keep her business open here in the area. Any final comments? Then we're going to have, okay, go ahead. Sunday brunch. Sunday brunch. Oh, okay.
I would just like to share very quickly, for those who live in the city of Columbia, the Columbia Branch NAACP will be hosting a mayoral and city council candidates forum on September 21st at 3 p.m. at Reed Chapel AME. So you can speak with Ms. Glover, or you can go to social media. Once again, that's civic engagement on the municipal level, so you can find out what those particular candidates, where they stand on particular issues. So thank you.
Okay, Mr. Chair, you want to say prayer so we can leave? So I know Shay want to go home.
Let us pray. Heavenly Father, the Creator, the universal God, we thank you for this day. We thank you for what we've heard. But more importantly, we thank you for the actions that we will take after hearing what we've heard. Now, Father, we thank you for traveling mercies for everybody that's going to their destinations. And Lord, we know as long as we are in your hands, we're good to go. In the name and nature of Jesus the Christ, amen.